Okay, very good. We have a new audio-visual system, so it'll take me about a year and a half to figure it out. I think it's working. This is a common council meeting to be held on Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 at 7 p.m. Would you please call the roll?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Present.
Alderperson Sarian.
Present.
Alderperson Kastner.
Present.
Item 2 is opening prayer. Tim, how are you?
A student at Greenfield High School has committed suicide in the last 6 weeks. And a third student, citizen of Greenfield, but went to Greendale High School, so a third student in the last 6 weeks has committed suicide. So I want to keep that in mind while I pray for this evening's meetings and moving forward. Dear God, we thank you for this evening. We thank you for this great city that we live in and that we're a part of. Thank you for your hand on all the things that occur and all the decisions that are going to be made this evening. Pray, God, for our students that attend our schools and their families. I pray that if there is any student that is struggling with depression or a need for friendship or a loss of hope, I pray they would find resources, they would find friends, their family would be a part of helping them, and that we could all help to make a difference in their lives. I pray for this evening's meeting, all the decisions that need to be made, the discussions that are going to be had. I pray your hand be on it. Be with our police and our fire. Keep them safe in their responses to the needs of this city. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Before we begin the Pledge of Allegiance, I just wanted to say that the young man's name, it was released today by the school district, was Noah Medina. I've known Noah since Elmdale. He stayed over at our house. My son stayed over at his father's house. It's truly a heartfelt loss for all of us. I know my son was pretty upset today. We have to get some kind of grip on what's going on around us with this kind of things. Kids that are in high school, 3 of them within 6 weeks or so, should not be killing themselves, whether it's because of bullying or whether it's because of pressure, or it's because of social media, whether it's because of any of these things. As a society, we truly do need to do better. Noah was a wonderful kid. He was incredibly smart. He was incredibly witty. He is incredibly gregarious. He was subject to exaggeration sometimes, but he was a great kid, and I'm truly going to miss him. I saw him about a year ago at a football game or something, and it's very, very sad. My heart as a, and all the kids that went to Elmdale and Greenfield Middle School and Greenfield High School that knew Noah and knew the other kids that have taken their lives, it's like all of our hearts, I know, go out to them. I know Alderperson Labatsky's daughter goes to Greenfield. It's a tragedy, and thank you very, very much for the kind words this evening. If we could stand then for the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moving along, I'd entertain under item D the approval of the November 5th, 2019 Common Council minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Bailey, second by Alderperson Kastner. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Under Mayor's report this evening, I want to invite a very special guest who's in our audience this evening. His name is Wyatt. He's from Troop 529. Is that right? Greenfield Middle School? Hi, Wyatt. I wrote it in my hand, 579, sorry. He's here to watch us behave properly, engage in great social discourse, and maybe get into a debate or something. So welcome to Wyatt. It's my alma mater, Greenfield Middle School, so it's a good school. All right. If it would be possible, I'd like the minutes to reflect that Wyatt was here. We won't use any last names or anything, so that he can download that, and maybe it'll help him a little bit with his merit badge. Right? Getting a merit badge for this? Which one? Communications? Awesome. All right, just another thing under Mayor's report, and it's kind of an announcement. If you may have noticed at Conkle Park, the ice rink is here and has been installed. There isn't any water in it. Please don't walk in it. Weather permitting, and DPW still has some work to do around the pavilion. And John and Kent and Scott have been working extremely hard on that. We're hoping by the middle of December, assuming the weather's good and everything, that we will have ice skating with lights and heat, right, and hot chocolate at Conkle Park. So it's pretty exciting. I would also encourage you to go to our website to look for, Christmas with Santa and all of the other festivities that are going on, or Breakfast with Santa, Christmas with Santa, the official tree lighting. I think the library has some stuff going on, right? I can't go through all of it this evening, but there's some good stuff coming up. Finally, I want to make sure that everyone is safe this weekend. It's hunting season. Gun hunt begins on Saturday. That's why I have this attempt at a goatee that will probably disappear by next Monday. But stay safe out there. Okay. Aldermanic reports, are there any this evening? Alderperson Bailey?
Thank you, Mayor Knightsky. I just wanted to bring you guys a quick update on the tree commission meeting that we had last Thursday. City Forester Dennis is working with the city engineering, has worked with Jeff Katz as far as notification of when we plant trees, when we go into a new subdivision. And we're going to work on that. There's been some problems with some residents that haven't been notified that they're getting a tree, especially in the older subdivisions. That there's certain subdivisions in our city that didn't get their trees for 10 years ago or 15 years ago, and as we're sort of replacing a tree canopy in our city because we're losing trees from the emerald ash borer. So there, especially for the old subdivision, they're getting new trees. We're working on, the city forester, along with Jeff Katz and the city engineering department, is working on a notification process so everybody get a letter notifying that they are going to get a tree. When we have major reconstruction, street reconstruction, there are meetings of the people that show up telling what's going to happen in the street. We just got to make sure that the city forester is there or somebody speaks on his behalf telling the residents of the city that they also might get a tree. And there might be some trees that are knocked down because of the road project, but there's a plan, a tree plan that the city forester has. So we're working on that so we don't have any problems about somebody calling us and saying, I don't want a tree. How come I wasn't notified I wasn't getting a tree? So that's the main thing that we're working on right now. One other thing that we talked about is the fall planting, 350 trees. There's, as of last week, there was still very little frost in the ground. They're still planting trees. Basically, that was it. One other thing, we talked about the Morgan Avenue project. Funding for trees was not provided in the Morgan Avenue project, but we're working around that because we do want some trees planted on Morgan Avenue.
Right, great. And Morgan Avenue was a state project, and they don't have forestry as part of their road construction.
Right.
Just following up on your wonderful tree commission report, which always keeps me riveted. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the beautification committee and staff with regard to our efforts to become a bird, a bee, and a butterfly city. So working with Joan Stevens and some of the others, it's important that we recognize the environment that's around us and that we do what we can in small ways. Every little bit helps, right? To try to get it on that map, because I think we should be. Citizen commentary, is there any this evening? I don't.
Under announcements?
Oh, I'm sorry, under announcements, I'm sorry.
Okay. Yeah, other than the Salvation Army, another place to drop off food is the First Weber Realtors, 10521 West Layton Avenue. It's an official drop-off site for the Greenfield Food Pantry. There's a great need in our community, so please stop by with your donations. Monday through Friday, 9 to 6, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 12. And also the second thing, there will be, by the Salvation Army, a Coats for Kids distribution. November 22nd and 23rd, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It will be at 5880 North 60th Street in Milwaukee. Their number is 414-464-2940 if you have any questions. So anyone who needs a coat, please go there to get one for your children.
Are they looking for any donations? 'Cause
I'm
some-
sure they'll
Yeah,
always.
the
have
Salvation
some-
Army at 28th, 29th, and Cold Spring is always willing to accept food for its pantry or donations of clothing,
Right.
and basically anything that's clean
Right.
and usable.
But
Right?
specifically, November 22nd and 23rd, you can go there for the coat distribution.
Okay.
Coats for kids.
One other announcement I wanted to make that we talked about, leaves, like we're supposed to be picking up leaves before it snows. But if you haven't noticed, the leaves are still on the trees and it's already snowed 13 inches, I was told, within the city today. The city is making every effort it can to collect leaves throughout the city in this extremely trying environment. So it's not like we have leaf trucks and snowplow trucks. We have trucks that we attach leaf collection stuff to or snow removal stuff to. So when it snows, the trucks are converted for snow plowing operations. When the snow is gone and those are complete, the trucks are then reconverted essentially to collect leaves. Now, there may be a couple that they don't convert, right? But I would ask everyone to have patience this year with leaf collection. It's a challenge when there's 3 or 4 inches of snow on the road and a plow goes through. In years past, it was, people were a lot grumpier than they are this year, but I'm guessing there are still some grumpy people out there.
Well, they also have other options to drop them off at the center off of Layton and 51st. They can drop off their leaves there too. So there are other options available.
There are other options, and, it's just, there's only so much we can do. There will come a point when leaf collection will probably stop, because the weather will dictate that the trucks are ready to go at a sort of a moment's notice, right? But as far as the weather goes, and the superintendent's back there nodding, I think, I can't see without my glasses. I see motion, and it looks like it's going up and down.
Shaking his head going, no.
I know they're all working diligently to make sure that those leaves are collected. Okay, moving along to citizen commentary. I have some folks here from Johnson Disposal Service. I'm guessing that's for the item later. We'll defer that until that item.
Oh, I have an announcement, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Greenfield Hawks Drama presents The Doctor in Wonderland Thursday, November 21st at 6 p.m., Friday 11/22, 7 p.m., Saturday 11/23, 7 p.m., Sunday 11/24, 4 p.m. No advance sales, $5 at the door. And the students have been working really hard on this.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. I'm guessing you go to the Greenfield School District website for further information?
Yep,
Okay,
or Facebook.
or Facebook. Okay, item I is the public hearings. There are 2 public hearings this evening. The first one relates to the public hearing on the proposed 2020 budget, the decision regarding the 2020 budget and adoption of a resolution levying taxes this year. The second relates to a special use permit for a massage parlor that we'll get to after the budget. We have to should do it in the order in which it's presented. Before you, and prior to this, as you probably know, we start working on the budget. Staff actually starts working on the budget once the audit's completed in roughly March or April of every year. This year was extremely challenging at the Finance Committee meetings, and I know you were all invited and you were all given the opportunity to ask questions, and I know a lot of you did at those meetings. This is, I think, my 14th budget. Might be my 13th, I'm not sure. I've been doing this for 14 years. I'm guessing it's my 14th. This, other than the time around Act 10, it has been the most challenging budget that we faced. The budget across the board is flat in every respect, except one in the Park and Rec Department, where we've shifted part-time dollars and other dollars to create a full-time, essentially assistant park guy to help Kent, because he can't do it all by himself year-round when the summer help is gone. That's essentially the only significant change within the budget. As far as the budget goes, we are subject, and I listen to talk radio periodically, not too often, because it just makes my blood boil. But there's things that control how much we can tax and how much we can spend, and all of those things. And most of those things are completely out of our control. The state allows us through a formula to do something called, it's a levy limit. It says how much you can raise taxes over your entire city in the year. And there's a calculation associated with it, and it gives you a number. That number this year was 2.74%. That allowed us to increase our taxes by about $707,000. That's a lot of money. As far as the city goes, though, our health insurance and the 2% wages, which I believe are below the inflation rate right now, is about $680,000 plus or minus, which means that we had roughly $27,860 to have for new spending. Speaking of the superintendent back there, salt prices, which used to be $30, $40, $50 a ton, right, are now $60, $70, and $80 a ton, as I understand it. They fluctuate, right, and there's supposed to be an oversupply of the salt, but nonetheless, the salt alone is more than $27,000, and it's, right, substantially more than $27,000. So all of those extra costs, and that's just one example and one little thing within the city, all of those costs get absorbed within the budget in one way, shape, or form. Whether it's less overtime or it's, delaying the hiring of somebody, doing whatever we have to do to make sure that we have a balanced budget. We don't spend more than we make, right? And that we can levy. The other part of this thing is the state also has something, and this is the part that talk radio never really talks about. There's something called the Expenditure Restraint Program. The Expenditure Restraint Program is another formula that the state says that they have a calculation that you complete, and this year it said that we could raise our expenditures by roughly $1.1 million, which is a bit of a challenge, right? It's 1.1 million, right? Roughly, plus or minus. So if you can raise your taxes by $707,000, but you can raise what you spend based on what they think you should be able to spend, right? Because they say what your expenditures should reasonably be going up, we're $400,000 short. So what we end up doing is we end up transferring things between funds and doing this and using reserves and creating contingencies, right? And doing all these things in the budget. So why do we do that? With regard to the levy limit, our state aids are tied to the levy limit. If we go over our levy limit, our aids are reduced. If we don't maximize the expenditures that the state says we should make, the expenditure restraint program aid that comes to the city in the form of about $650,000, I think it is, plus or minus, we don't get. So you have to raise your expenditures to get the aid. You have to keep your levy limit where it is to get that aid. And then you're stuck trying to play some of these kind of things that most normal folks, and me included, sometimes don't understand, how you could speak one way about one thing and kind of do it on the other hand. We have managed to do that this year. Our health insurance, and this was discussed at committee, initially came in at a 31% increase, in plus or minus. That would have been incredibly bad for this budget. That would have probably meant that there would be about $1 million worth of cuts within the budget to make sure that our obligations to most employees and retirees are met with regard to health insurance. And the only way to come up with that $1 million is through people. There are things, that there's this impression that you have big fire trucks that are expensive and, paper and pencils, and why aren't you saving money on toilet paper and all this other stuff, right? The reality is most of the city is run by people. Most of the expenses within the city and the quality of the services that you get aren't based on the pencils or the trucks, they're based on the people that operate them. I feel I'm forever thankful to our HR, to Julie in HR. I'm forever grateful to our broker who managed to steer us into a different insurance plan that's comparable and save it at the last minute. But people always think that I have a tan, you know, that, oh, you're so tan, are you out in the sun? No, that's high blood pressure, thinking about how I'm going to deal with $1 million shortfall. This year was one of those years that was extremely difficult. So as you have, oh, there's a couple other little points, and I'm only hitting the high points for this part of the public hearing.
Seem like low points to me.
Oh, these are actually the high points. So there's some other things that happened. There was the Kindred Hospital that was on the west side of town that was closed and was sold for I think it was $2 million. Is that
Yeah, a little
something?
less, actually.
Less than $2 million. It was worth like a lot more than that. I think it was 11 million, right? We agreed that the value as a dark hospital, there you've heard about dark stores, dark hospitals, was about $3,400,000. Also, the Spring Mall property across the street had a relatively large value associated with it. Was it 6 million? I can't remember what it was. 6,198,000. Was over 10 million. So while I'm always harping about dark store stuff, it's truly a dark store now. So that value of Spring Mall has been reduced through agreement and negotiation with council to be about $4 million. That loss of 6 million there and about 3.4 million at the hospital, that's what it was, 3.4 million at the hospital, has an impact on taxes because that's less value in the city and it adds pennies to the mill rate. The good news is that there's some positive, I think there's some positive economic news on the horizon with regard to some of the lower performing or potentially stressed properties in the city. These things always take time to get done. I mean, they take an inordinate amount of time. But I suspect that our property value, barring a recession or something, is going to be a good thing.
Are we still in legal with one of our local businesses?
Is your mic on? I can't hear you.
Yeah, it was. We're still in legal with one of our other,
Yeah, so there's, as far as I know, there's only one dark store. There's only one major challenge to assessments that's out there right now, and that revolves around the Walmart.
I think it's been public, yeah.
yeah.
Oh, it's
yeah,
been public, and
Might have
I've
said
been in the
something
newspaper
before.
about it, and I've said all sorts of things here. I guess I can say that again, that currently that's valued at about 19, 20 million. I don't remember what the number is, 18, 19, 20. I don't know what it is. I don't have it on the top of my head. They've brought suit against us for a number of tax years claiming that the value of the property is 5 million, and it's not worth what it's assessed at. That despite the fact that the property itself is sold for, I think, around 7 million.
Just the land.
Just the land. Took about $1 million or $2 million to improve it, to make it buildable. That it's a 150,000 square foot building, and at even $100 a foot is $15 million. That it's their most profitable supercenter, as I understand it, within the state. That it's used as the model supercenter, and they actually built on an educational center on it. So they think it's worth $5 million. I
And
have
I
said
do see our police there quite frequently too.
they are typically in the first or second spot with regard to calls for service within the city. So that kind of, I mean, that you could get me going, and you have, I think, historically for hours about the dark store thing and how something just doesn't seem right when the most valuable real retail company in the country is claiming that its 150,000 square foot store is worth $5 million when it sold its old store that was 80,000 square feet next door for almost that much money and had so many covenants within the property that it could only be basically used for a church, an athletic club, or a secondhand retail. So, but I won't get into that tonight.
Thank you.
So the way that this probably works is that the tax rate for the 2019 tax bills is approximately $9.18 versus $9.09. That's the mill rate. That's at 90%, right? That's not at 100%. So what the 90%, 100% means is that we're in the point now where property values have been increasing. So on your property tax bill, when you see the value that's on your property tax bill, it's not at 100%. It's probably 90% of the real value. So the rate is reflective of that. The rate would go down if it was reflected at the higher number. Does that make sense? Okay. It would go down by 10%, I believe, right? She's the accountant, so I look at her to make sure my numbers, I'm better with words sometimes. In 2018, the city portion was about 36% of the total tax bill. It varies by Whitnall or Greenfield or the West Dallas, the 8 homes that are over there. Right?
What's the school districts?
I don't know.
I think it went down, didn't it?
Well, the school districts, I know in Greenfield that the state aids for Greenfield have gone up pretty well. So their budget is based, while we might get about $2.5 million in state aids, the school districts get a significant portion of their budget funded by state aids. It was originally supposed to be 2/3. Now it's probably around 50%, and they're trying to increase it up again. I don't remember exactly what it is. So the way that works, if their total budget was, say, $10 million, and this year, state aids were 50% and taxes were 50%, that would be $5 million from the city taxpayers and $5 million from the state. So if the state aids go up to $6 million, that means that the taxes for the city portion would go down to $4 million. So they kind of have a limit as to how much they can spend. It's just generally speaking, it's generally the formula as to how you get to that limit. They are completely sort of held hostage to state aid. It's my understanding that Greenfield's went up as far as state aid. I think Whitnall may have.
Might have to,
Yeah, I think they did.
but there's still surprisingly an equal portion of the total tax bill as the city.
Yeah.
Surprisingly close.
It used to be that the city would be, there's more money that's in the state being funneled to schools and education now. The aids to cities haven't increased probably for over a decade, which is all the stuff you see on TV with, right? This budget, like last year's budget and the year before, contemplates a 2% increase in wages and a 10% increase for health insurance. The 2% is a number that we arrive at because most of our employees are still collectively bargained. So when Act 10 said there aren't any more unions, except for you cities where your firefighters and your police officers are still unionized, that's what's part of the contract. So that's what it is part of this. With regard to the other employees and gaining some of the experience that we had during Act 10, when there is a disparity in what people pay and what people contribute, especially when you're working right next to them, there tends to be a lot of hostility in the work environment. So this budget treats all employees exactly the same from that perspective. Okay. Before you this evening, you all received, I think, electronically this year's budget, and you've got a binder, right?
A little bit.
And in years past, what we would do is every single time there was a change in the proposed budget, you'd get a new color of paper with all the changes. What we decided to do this year, one, because there weren't a lot of significant changes from the budget once we proposed it and we finally got it figured out. These are the changes that essentially result, the pages that you have before you should replace the ones that are in your budget. These are the pages that reflect an increase in transportation aid that we received from the state, which was in the amount of.
128,000 increase.
So when we received $128,000 from the state in the form of increased transportation aids, the pages that you see before you are what we had to do to make it work, to fit within the levy limits, the expenditure restraint program, and all of the other stuff that we do. Paula can go into great detail and probably bore the bejesus out of you explaining exactly what she did, but in essence, it had no discernible impact on the budget, but it did have a discernible impact on the number of pages that had to be corrected to take into account this new funding. Okay? Encourage you. Does anybody have any questions about the budget?
Do we have anyone to speak?
So this is a public hearing. That was my presentation. I was going to do a PowerPoint like I do every year that has like a graphic of a dollar bill sliced up as to all that stuff. But after kind of talking about it for about 6 months straight, I didn't do the PowerPoint. It's flat, except for the parks position. So this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak for, against, or for informational purposes?
Signed up?
Has anyone, so
No.
this is a public hearing for the budget. It has been noticed in our official newspaper. It's been posted everywhere that it needs to be. This has been discussed, I know, in finance, and it now streams live on YouTube throughout the world. All 8 billion people, if you wanted to watch this wonderful experience in democracy and financial acumen. Is there anyone that would like to sign up to speak for, against, or for informational purposes regarding the budget as it's been presented, noticed, and posted? Is there anyone that would like to speak for, against, or for informational purposes for this budget?
Are we closing these separately? Motion to close the public hearing?
You could do that. Oh, somebody just. Second. Is that somebody's phone?
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner to close the public hearing. Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Sarian. Would you please call? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. So,
Motion to adopt,
so usually there's the resolution, right?
am I the only one
Did
that?
it,
Do I have the
1A?
resolution? It's double, oh, we're in the, to save money, it's double-sided.
Yes.
So it's actually behind,
The agenda.
it's behind the agenda.
Ah,
The last page.
So,
is this the right number too?
yeah. It is.
It is.
So with regard to the resolution itself, I'll read it just generally for Wyatt's benefit over there, who I know is taking copious notes and is going to report on this to all his classmates at the Greenfield Middle School. Isn't that right, Wyatt? Good job. Whereas the City of Greenfield has prepared an annual budget for 2020 fiscal year in accordance with the requirements of the City of Greenfield Municipal Code, and whereas the Common Council has reviewed the proposed revenues from all sources and the proposed expenditures for all purposes, and has directed that the proposed budget be adjusted accordingly, and whereas a public hearing on the annual budget was held on November 19th, which is today, on 2019, after due and proper notice of said hearing having been given in accordance with the provisions of Section 65.90 Wisconsin statutes, and whereas it is necessary to levy a property tax in the amount of $26,563,943, exclusive of the TIF levy, to fund the expenses of the City of Greenfield contained in the 2020 annual budget. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council of the City of Greenfield as follows, that the 2020 annual budget, a summary of which is attached hereto and made part hereof, that would be the orange sheet that you have in front of you, the first sheet, that the property tax is hereby levied in the amount of $26,563,943, exclusive of the TIF levy on all taxable property within the City of Greenfield as returned by the assessor in the year 2019 for the purposes as set forth in this budget. I'd entertain a motion that adopts that resolution, including the amended
Salmon
budget
sheet?
cover sheet that was provided by the finance director tonight, which reflects the change in the transportation aids and its impact within each and every portion of the budget.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Bailey. Any discussion?
Just want to say
Alderperson Bailey.
thanks to Paula Schaefer and her staff and yourself for putting together this budget. I know that the budget was it was very difficult this year.
It was
Also, the department heads, I think, should be thanked too.
yeah, I mean, so just so you know, too, I mean, while we're under discussion, I wanted to say that we are blessed as a city to have fantastic employees, to have incredibly progressive, thinking ahead, thinking out of the box, thinking towards the future department heads that provide great leadership to the city. I could name them all, but I won't because I'll forget one, and then I'll be reminded tomorrow that I forgot one of them, and why didn't you mention me? But each and every one of them is spectacular.
I do believe each and every one of them wanted more money, and you were able to.
I can tell you that, that the original budget that was presented contained increased expenditures of $3 to $4 million. And that didn't work. So,
Doesn't hurt to ask.
especially Sheila in the library. I'm just kidding, Sheila, sorry, that was uncalled for. So the resolution's been made and seconded. Would you please call?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
I'd entertain a motion. A motion carries unanimously. I'd entertain a motion to reconsider.
Motion to reconsider.
Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Labatsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I'd entertain a motion to reaffirm.
Motion to reaffirm.
Second.
Motion by Kastner, second by Labatsky. Would you please, I just want you to call the reaffirm.
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Did you notice a tan starting to leave my face? That's cool. All right, moving along.
Burn after hunting.
After hunting, yeah, exactly. Maybe not Saturday morning, but, all right. Let's see, item number I2 is a public hearing on a resolution relative to the termination of a special use permit for a proposed massage therapy business, Mi Lai Spa, I hope I pronounced that right, to be located at 3775 South 108th Street, submitted by Zenbo Gu, hope I pronounced that right, Gao. Doing business as My Lee Spa, tax key number is listed. As part of this public hearing, there is a special use permit for the proposed massage therapy business, as well as a site plan review for the proposed massage therapy business. This is a public hearing. If you're here to speak for, against, or for informational purposes regarding this item, there's some slips in the white boxes right there that you need to fill out. If you're the applicant, of course, we know you're here, but, so, Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They're proposing to open a new business, massage therapy business, in a tenant space in the multi-tenant commercial building on the northwest corner of Highway 100 and Beloit Road. The property is Zone C4, which permits massage therapists as a special use. Just a little note, the public hearing notice went out with the address of 3775 South 108th Street. That is the tenant space that the applicant initially was looking to occupy. We learned today from the landlord that they're proposing to occupy a different tenant space, and the correct address would then be 3783 South 108th Street. This is within the same parcel, same tax key number, and same legal description that is provided on the resolution. They would be leasing approximately 1,200 square feet within the existing multi-tenant commercial building. So the applicant and owner of the business, proposed owner of the business, has experience owning massage therapy business, and he does have a staff person that does already have a therapy license issued through the state of Wisconsin. They're proposing services such as hot stone massage, Thai massage, acupuncture, Swedish massage, and facial massage, and they anticipate employing 2 people. The proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. Regarding parking, the off-street parking, the code would require 6 spaces for this particular business and 69 spaces for all of the businesses collectively at the site. There's ample parking on the property as 150 stalls are provided. The Plan Commission recommended approval on September 10th. Just some site pictures. The property owner has repaved the front parking lot. In the back, there is a dumpster. I believe some tenant improvements are being made. The property owner has agreed to some improvements to the existing refuse enclosures. And with that, that concludes my portion of the public hearing presentation.
Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against or for informational purposes concerning this item? Oh, the applicant is here with his interpreter, right? Is there anyone that would like to speak for or against or informational purposes concerning this item? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Oh, wait, before we do that. So, as you know, we get emails, and I did get one email, okay? This is from Janice Edwards. My name is Janice Edwards. I am the owner of Best Carpet located at 3771, 73.
Are you gonna edit that?
Huh?
Are you gonna edit that?
I'm
To the
gonna,
new address that she just gave you.
Well, this is this person's
I'm
address.
just, so this is what I'm doing. I'm reading what was provided to me. Whether it's not where she works or she has a new address, I'm reading into the record what was required of me,
All right.
or was asked of me, okay? My name is Janice Edwards. I'm the owner of Best Carpet located at 3771, 3773, 3775 South of Highway 100 in Greenfield. Best Carpet has been in its current location for 35 years. We were the first tenant in this building when it was built. We are currently under the second ownership of the building. We run a respectful business that prides itself on operating on referrals and not advertising. A little more than a year ago, we had a massage business in the building that was really a cover for a prostitution business. You have the records on this at our police department. The undercover police would line the solicitors in front of my store. They were located next to us and process them on site. This is not something that I wanted my customers or employees to be exposed to. My store is open until 8 p.m. several nights a week. We would see semi-drivers and other men park next door at Stein's Garden Center just to walk over to the massage business and bang on their door. They would be let in, of course. Lights out almost most of the time. The girls would arrive by van, usually in the evening. One van load would get out and go in. The next van load would come out. No doubt to go to another location. I am explaining all of this because I do not want to experience this again, nor do my employees or customers. I cannot believe that the city of Greenfield would even entertain the idea of another massage place. I cannot believe our landlord would entertain the idea, although I'm sure his motive is, quote, take the money and don't look back, let it be the city's problem. But what excuse does the city have? Shame on Alderperson Mr. Kastner on voting yes to this when he and I have had conversation about this in the past. He knows how we, the tenants, feel about this, but obviously he is not concerned about what we feel. Our safety is not his concern, apparently. I'm really sorry that I'm reading all this about you.
No, it's an honest God truth. It got to this point because
Okay.
it had to go past the
Yep.
planning commission
Yep.
because
Yep.
it's the process to get.
A very simple
to get-
background check and research will show that the owner of this potential tenant massage business is not legitimate. Are we to believe this massage business he owns in another state that was just shut down for prostitution was just coincidental? I want to say, on behalf of the city, these are the opinions expressed on behalf of others and not by the city. That won't happen here, right? Shame on Alderperson Kastner for not doing a thorough check before voting yes and moving this forward. I ask that before rushing through, let's re-examine what effect will be on the community as a whole and on the safety of the women and children who not only work in the building, but of all the children who live in the area. Rivershire is right behind us. These types of business expose us to low-life people. We will be communicating this again to our landlord, who obviously started this whole process, but please, I ask you, don't allow this to move forward. Sincerely, Janice Edwards, Best Carpet. And that was received on November 18th at 8 p.m. at my email. I don't know if anybody else got this. Anybody else get this?
It was
We got
at
a
our,
copy on our desk.
You might have got a copy from me.
Yes.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That has been the only comment that I have received with
Did we
regard
close
to
the public hearing?
We didn't close the public hearing, because I needed to get that into
Yeah,
the
good
public
point.
hearing, because that is part of the comment that was provided. So is there is anybody, as part of the public hearing, you just heard things other people said, right? Is there any response that you want to give during the public hearing?
I guess while we're under the public hearing, I'd like to make a comment that it's quite obvious that this location has not been conducive to a massage parlor. And for
Oh,
that
we're-
reason,
we're-
I'm not,
So we're here to talk about use, right, and zoning, and whether or not it works well there. There have been 2 or 3 that have been in there that have failed over the course of time. At least 1 or 2 of them had some nefarious associations associated with them. With regard to this, I'm not making any opinion as to whether this person does it.
person, no,
This person or this
the
applicant
use.
does. It's a question of whether or not this is an appropriate use at that location. So we're still in the public hearing, and I'm just trying
Okay,
to.
I thought we closed the public.
no.
No,
Oh.
just with regard
I
to the
was
public hearing
killing
too,
time while he-
I want the record to reflect too that the applicant speaks Chinese and he has an interpreter here this evening. So we're giving all sorts of latitude to make sure that everything is communicated in a thoughtful and thorough way and giving them the opportunity to translate and to do what they need to do. What you would need to do, both of you, if you're going to speak on the issue, you probably both need to do it if you're translating for the applicant. Come up to the microphone up here, if that's cool.
The first thing what he said, that he never thought that massage.
Can you speak into the mic?
Oh, sorry.
Just do me one favor before you start. Could you tell us your name and your address, and then could you give us your name and address and express that you're the interpreter, speaking on behalf of the applicant?
名字跟地址，你名字跟地址
名字
和地址。
家里的地址。
啊，对。
我叫郑波郭，
His name is 曾博郭 ZHENBUOGO。
我住在芝加哥25小街，门牌是222。
I stay on I stay in 25 Street in Chicago. The number is
25小街，门牌222。
and the number is 222.
Okay.
My name is Chris Ken. I stay in Wisconsin in West Bend. My address is 742 Creekwood Lane, West Bend, Wisconsin. I do a lot of translations for the cities, for the governments, for the attorneys.
Great.
So he hired me to do all the attorneys, especially these kind of cases.
Great, thank you. So did he understand some of the comments that were being made? Did you kind of explain some of those things to him?
I just did the explanation after everything has stopped. And I
Okay.
just did, especially the concern from Janice is a big concern. And his answer is that because he just do proper massage, he never thought that there are such kind of things that did happen in the massage parlors.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? I mean, for the applicant during the public hearing?
I can wait till it closes.
Okay. Were there any other comments that you wanted to make?
你要告诉
嗯
陈氏，你为什么看按摩店吗？
我不认为按摩店是一个非法的职业，我一直认为按摩店就是正常的一种职业，但是为什么做到今天这步，我也不知道。我不希望大家有对按摩店有那种负面的那个怎么说呢？负面的那种印象。但是我不管别人怎么做，但是我可以保证我的按摩店绝对是正规的。我欢迎大家，政府或者警察部门随时去我的按摩店检查。
He said that a massage parlor should be a legal entity. He never thought there would be illegal or illicit any activities inside a massage parlor. For I do not know what happened to other people, why did they do that, but as long as I'm concerned, everything needs to be legal. As for me, I will invite all government officers, even the police department, anytime to just come to visit my parlor if I did have the permit. Anytime, any moment.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Is anybody want to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this, item? Does anyone want to register to speak for or against for informational purposes concerning this item? I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Who made the second last time?
We did it already.
Did,
Who was it?
but we never
We
voted.
never really did.
We never did. I
We
would.
didn't?
No, we didn't.
Okay, second.
Right.
So we made a motion and then you.
Yeah, it really just
Motion by
appeared.
Alderperson Akers, second by Bailey.
No, Labatsky.
Labatsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Are you gonna speak or should I just make a motion to
Okay,
deny?
so with regard to this,
I'm,
there are
I'm
two
done.
items that are for, right? There are two items, and this would be the special use permit and the special site plan review based on the public hearing. Okay, Alderperson Labatsky.
Okay, this is a highly trafficked area. We had issues here before. So we need to look at the use because of the history at this location. We do not need this element if it were to go in the other direction in our neighborhood or business district. The neighbors, residents that live in the apartments in back of there, up on the hill, we dealt with this criminal element, meaning Greenfield PD. My one concern about this is that people that obtained illegal services at this location are going to see a new one go in and, you know, think, hey, they're back in business. And when I talk to some of the businesses at this location, just to get a better feel for everything, they were pretty disturbed at the age of the young girls that were being trafficked. So definitely concerned for the neighborhood having this location have issues before, so.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Second.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner to deny, second by Alderperson Labatsky. This is to deny the special use permit. Want to be clear.
Based on
Based
On
on,
what I just said,
no,
the
no,
use.
pretty much.
yeah,
Brian?
Well, right. I mean, generally, our kind of standard on zoning stuff, because there's no licensing element here, is that the question you're faced with is really more of a what, not who type approach is the language we typically use. You know, in this case, with it being a special use, you know, our code talks about in special uses that one of the things that needs to take place is that there cannot be any adverse impact. The code specifically talks about the proposed use and development will not have a substantial or undue adverse detrimental effect upon or endanger adjacent property, the character of the area, or public health, safety, morals, comfort, and general welfare, and not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. Code further goes on to talk about the fact that with this being a special use, that you can impose conditions that where we identify potential harms that may exist or adverse impacts that may exist, the code contemplates that you can impose such conditions or limitations as may be necessary to mitigate that potential harm that would exist. So the question really in this case is, do you, you know, in light of what's been discussed, this concept that, you know, we've got a history of you know, problems in this particular location, and the risk that then carries over onto what is a new operator who, you know, undoubtedly is going to operate fully in compliance with the law. Nonetheless, it has that possibility perhaps of drawing that element back in. Folks that, you know, I think Alderwoman Labatsky suggested that, you know, identify the location as, oh, that's where I used to go to get my illicit services. They must be back open and going in and creating issues either because of pressures to return to those types of activities, or even just in terms of increased you know, negative traffic, you know, folks that are, you know, maybe doing drugs or other activities within the area, you know, conflicts between the applicant and his staff and these individuals who come into the facility to, you know, kind of utilize the services that they used to be getting, and when they're told, no, we don't do that, you know, that there could be some potential conflicts. You know, so the question becomes whether there are any potential conditions or limitations that you could put on the proposed use that would help mitigate those impacts. You know, I don't know what those specifically would be. Thankfully, that's not necessarily my job to come up with conditions, but those would be if you were going to look to approve the use in light of those concerns. You know, I think you would want to do that by looking then at potential conditions that could be, to the extent that you can reasonably come up with conditions that may be effective, that you'd want to look at and do that. And to the extent that you're not able to come up with those types of conditions, that would be a signal that denial would be appropriate at that point.
Just from my perspective, that, and I'm not suggesting that I necessarily agree with everything that one of the tenants in the strip mall had talked about completely, but there's this idea that there's this historical nefarious use at the site associated with the type of business that was in that site, and that kind of carries forward, even though there may be nothing wrong with this applicant in any way, shape, or form. You have to look, I think, at the businesses that are adjacent to it and what kind of impact they think that, while this may be the perfect gentleman and everything, and I don't disbelieve anything that he's transmitted to us here this evening, clearly the other businesses that are in that strip mall have some concerns based on the history of a similar use or in similar uses in the past, and what that kind of drew to the mall. I think that's a reasonable consideration.
Well, and it wasn't only the massage, there was a vape shop there, and there was drug dealings and fights, and they're just fed up, it sounds like.
I do know that the strip center itself, and I'm not speaking necessarily to this applicant in any way, shape, or form, has been pretty run down for a long time, that they're making some pretty significant investments in the property now. They've redone the parking lot. It seems as if they're doing the facades over and all those kinds of things. So that's just
Based on pressure put on by this council?
based by pressure put on by this council, but also, and maybe Christie a little bit.
Yes.
But also, I think based on the pressure put on by the existing tenants. When you've been there for 25 years selling carpeting, and there are things in leases that are a responsibility. That's to have good co-tenancies, that are good for the building, and to have a good building.
Well, and to have good communication with your current tenants of perhaps,
All of those things, right?
incoming new businesses. So
So there was a motion.
basically, we're looking at the use
It's just,
and the history of the use. Correct.
I think that's what you're trying to say.
Okay.
So the motion was made by Alderperson Kastner, second by Alderperson Lebowski. Would you please call?
Alderperson Labatsky.
No?
Wait,
The motion is to deny.
Yes, I'm sorry.
not that we want to tell you how to vote, but.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries unanimously. Item J, old business. I don't have any appointments for items 1A.
Did you want to translate?
Or does he
No.
know?
Could we defend ourselves just
The
before?
public hearing is
The
closed.
public hearing's closed.
Yeah,
拒绝了
okay. Is that,
因为
I want, okay,
thank you. It's an honor to the city of Greenfield. Thanks for all your time. Appreciate it.
okay,
It
thank
was
you.
a denial. Understood from your point of view.
I want to reasonably accommodate in any way, shape, or
为什么
matter
这
that I
样
can.
因为
But
不是
the-
你的问题，是因为之前的
We need to get going.
Yeah, we do need to get
之前的
going. We
店
got
周围
closed session and
So with regard to the denial of special use permit, the site plan review is
很多人
sort of
不赞成，他们投票
moot,
里
but
面全部
I think gets held over for any other potential tenants within the property that require special use, right?
抹掉。之前的犯罪率
Right? There's,
Yeah, we would ask the same conditions and site improvements for future tenants, yes.
就可以。
okay, J, old business, there are no appointments to the council or my appointments. There aren't any, so it's item 1A and 1B, little I, 2, 3, and 4, and I don't have anybody for C, the mayor appointments, so those should go on the next agenda, I guess. K, new business. These are all items from the planning commission through, now let's just go through them. K1, approve the amended site landscaping and architectural plans for the new construction of multi-tenant building, Shops of Greenfield at 7611, 7631 West Holmes. This has previously been approved with a drive-through component. That approval is still in place, which helps with the marketability of the property. This is to provide another option for prospective tenants within the property.
Do we know the 4 yet?
We don't know the 4, and we don't know what the other 3 were. One of the other 3 is apparently going somewhere else, potentially. I don't know. So we don't know what they're for. The way that it was discussed at the Planning Commission was the flexibility within the retail space to have between 2 and 4 tenants, depending on the size of the tenant, and of course, whether or not they met all the other code requirements with regard to parking and all those things. With regard to the road vacation and all of the other stuff that happened in the back, that essentially all remains the same. This allows the property to be marketed in sort of 2 ways. The first that was approved with the drive-through, which still may be beneficial, and the second way, which is broken up into between 2 and 4 potential tenants. Planning Commission.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Alderperson Kastner, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Akers, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item K2, special use review and site plan review for ownership change to Applebee's Bar and Grill, an existing business located at 5100 South 76th Street. If there's a new owner, I'd entertain a motion to approve the item as presented.
Make a motion to approve as presented, subject to staff comments for the improvements or maintenance that needs to be done.
The new owner wants to do the monument sign, do the landscaping. That's been pretty tired over the course of time, and expressed a desire at the Planning Commission meeting to do that. So the motion was made. Was there a second?
Second.
Second by Lobatsky. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Actually, do we have to do a roll call on that because it's a special use review?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Okay. Item K3 and 4 are renewal of appointments of Kevin Scholes and Troy Tronick to the Board of Directors to the South 27th Street Business District Association, District 2. These are for terms, 3-year terms expire February 17th, 2021. The items sort of slipped through the cracks. One of the things I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that the folks that are on these committees attend the meetings and are
Well, they do, because I attend and they're always there.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I actually checked, and there was one may have attended more than the other, but they need to attend. So I just wanted to verify that they do. These committees don't work if they don't show up, right? So I'd entertain a motion to renew those appointments.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item K5, applications for operator license. There weren't any issues, I don't think, with them. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by
Second.
Alderperson Akers, second by Alderperson Lobatsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item K6, application for Class B beer and liquor license from Wisconsin Apple LLC. This is for the Applebee's. Entertain a motion to approve.
Why are these so far apart? A motion to approve.
It's a different thing. Motion by Alderperson Kastner, second by Alderperson Lobatsky, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item 7 is discussion decision regarding the acceptance of a 15-foot road reservation on the south side of West Cold Spring Road contained in the certified survey map. Believe I'd entertain a motion to approve. This is to get right away, right, in front of where the old barn was for the residents that was approved a long time ago.
That
Cold Spring
farmhouse
is,
is
one of
so
the reasons
cool.
Cold Spring doesn't have sidewalks is because when it was created, the right-of-ways were never platted. So there are breaks all over the place. So this is one of those breaks. Entertain a motion to approve.
It was not that
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Akers, is there a second?
Kastner.
Second by
Second.
Kastner. Call, please.
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Item 8 is discussion decision regarding request to construct a new private fence and a permanent city sanitary easement, sewer easement in the rear yard of 4629 West Wilbur. Entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Lebowski, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. I guess the language should also say, and authorize the mayor to execute an agreement consistent with the city's rights that are associated, right? There's usually an agreement that goes with these, so.
So we're authorizing the mayor to go and sign an agreement, is what you just said?
Yeah, wait, well, to do this and to authorize me to sign an agreement with the person that's doing it. So, okay. What'd you call?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Item 9 is discussion decision to adopt a resolution in support of applying for a grant from the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources to fund a planning study for the Honey Creek. I don't know if you guys talked about this at Board of Public Works. We're trying to get some planning money with regard to creek improvements at Honey Creek behind Conkle Park. Jeff has been working diligently to make the back part of Honey Creek, where the bridges and the swamp is and the overgrowth, to enhance that. So that's what this is part of.
Motion.
To approve by Alderperson Kastner,
Second.
right? Second by Alderperson Akers. Would you please call? I guess I don't need.
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey. Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye. That was a motion to adopt, right?
That was a motion to adopt, so so the resolution will be created and you're authorizing me to sign it once it's adopted, right? That's essentially right. Item 10 is, and 11 are approval of disbursements and mileage reimbursements. I'd entertain a motion to approve both of those items.
I move for approval.
Motion by
Second.
Alderperson Sarian, second by Alderperson Kastner. Would you please call? Nope, 10 and 11.
Sorry. Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Okay, item 12 is discussion decision regarding addendum to administer the retail food and recreational programs for the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. This is by the Health Department. I entertain a motion to approve that addendum.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson Akers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Sarian. Would you call?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey.
Aye.
Alderperson Akers.
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian.
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner.
Aye.
Item 13, these are some closed session items. Is there John Hawk here? Okay. If I pronounce that right, hopefully. Hockey, sorry about that.
And actually on that one, just because we could maybe get him out of here, an oversight on my part, didn't realize that this was a renewal application, not a new application. There are no new concerns that had otherwise been identified since he was initially granted his license. So I apologize for making you come in, but we should move, or there should be a motion to
Okay, let's go
just
to item
approve that.
15. I'd entertain a motion to issue the 2019-20 operator license to Mr. Hockey.
So moved.
Motion by Alderperson
Second.
Kastner, second by Alderperson Bailey. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. If nothing else, you had a great civics lesson, right? Just all right, so item 13 is this common council to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section. Did I miss anything? Did I miss something? Okay, sorry, thought I heard somebody. To go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, parent 1, parent B, parent little e, F, and G for the following: deliberating and negotiating the purchases of public properties, investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require closed session. And C, conferring with legal counsel for the government body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which it is or is likely to become involved. I'd entertain a motion to go into,
So moved to move in
motion by
closed
Alderperson
session.
Akers to go into closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alderperson Kastner at 8:10 PM. Would you please call?
Alderperson Labatsky.
Aye.
Alderperson Bailey?
Aye.
Alderperson Akers?
Aye.
Alderperson Sarian?
Aye.
Alderperson Kastner?
Oh, yeah, we're supposed to pause. I don't even
All in
know.
favor?
Can you say
Everybody
aye?
said yes? Do you say aye?
Aye.
Okay. So we are now in closed session at 8:11.